review. We're going to start with news from the palace. The King's been forced to cancel a string of engagements after experiencing side effects following his cancer treatment. The King's was back at Clarence House working as usual last night, with sources describing it as a most minor bump in the road that's very much heading in the right direction. Gyles, what do you know?
Well, as we all know, more than a year ago, first of all, the palace announced that the King was suffering from enlarged prostate.
Yeah.
And then, during work on that, it was discovered that he had cancer. And this was all made public in February of last year. And everyone saluted the King, and indeed the palace, for being open about this. But quite rightly, every patient is allowed some privacy, even if you're the head of state. So it felt it had to be announced because maybe some of his duties had to be curtailed. None of his state duties ever were, but all his public events were.
Also, it's conversation, right? People are talking about it. People are going for checks.
Exactly. So people need to know. And what happened this week was he was going for one of his regular treatments, and there were some mild side effects, as I understand it, and so he's taking a day off. Now, to say he's taking a day off, this is a man of 76 who is actually a workaholic. I saw him on Tuesday evening at a reception hosted, in fact, by his wife, Queen Camilla, because I'm a trustee of her charity, the Queen's Reading Room, to encourage the joy of reading. He came along to support her. He didn't have to be there. He wasn't actually on the invitation. He was the surprise guest. But there were hundreds of people there. And they throw themselves in. They're shaking hands, as you were imitating earlier, doing that small talk. But he's very good at being actually engaged with what you're saying. And then the following day...
As is she, to be fair.
Yeah, they both are. But the following day, I think there was an investiture. Then there were 2 more receptions, including one for regional media, 400 people. Then the following day, he was due to see ambassadors to welcome them to this country. It's a big programme. But he loves doing it. It's what he lives for. It's been his life. So he's been told, take a day off. Just step back for a moment and, you know, take stock for a little while.
Which I think, if we are looking at Charles's condition and how it resonates with the public, then people who are, suffering or going through similar experiences in life, it's a good lesson, right?
Well, we would all have a day off, wouldn't we?
I think it's perfectly fine to expect anybody to have a day off, but particularly with somebody, the amount of engagements that you talked about. But I think there's also the other side where you've got to make sure you're doing the thing that's right for your recovery. Listen, I've got a number of friends who have gone through cancer. I've been, thankfully, on the other side of cancer, and I do a lot of work with prostate cancer UK. The important thing is how draining it is on the body when you go through any form of cancer treatment. And actually, your immune system, the white blood cells, everything else needs a huge amount of time to recuperate. So I hope, as a leader, he's taken the brave step of sharing the diagnosis with the country, and hopefully that gives particularly men who are not au fait with talking about these things more confidence to do so. But also, there's a responsibility as a leader to take the recuperation necessary to make sure you're here for as long as possible.
All this is true, but different people have different ways of dealing with this sort of situation. And knowing this man, his primary role is to be there to advise the Prime Minister, to meet, to consult with him, and to do his proper duties. He knows he's got to prioritise that. But also he is somebody who doesn't want to sit around focusing on my illness. He wants to be serious about it, to take the advice, but then to get on with doing things. Because that actually, he is a very resilient person. He wants to be doing what he wants to be doing. So some people will want to actually sit back and think about it. Others, like him, want to take the advice and then keep going.
I know he wants to keep going, but do you think, that we ask a bit too much? And he's not going to let us down in any way by having a few days off. If that was any of us, and our partner, if our partner was going through that, we would not be showing up to work. Do you think we ask too much of them?
I would be showing up to work. Some people would be showing up to work. Not every day, not if the doctor says don't. But think of the late Queen, who worked until she was 96 years of age. Of course, we all understood she had to step back a little bit as the years went by, but she kept on going. That is actually what the job is. And he's following in a tradition set by his mother, his grandfather, going right back to Queen Victoria's day. So he's not going to change.
I'm used to working with type of individual. Lord Sugar is a great example, right? He's every morning up. He doesn't have to, but it's a routine. And part of the routine for him, and by the way, happy birthday, Lord Sugar, for Monday. It's his birthday Monday. So, but I think it's important, as you say, that we keep moving, particularly when we come out to retirement age or we're relaxing. We shouldn't just stop. We should find other things. But I think in this situation, we have a leader who has huge responsibilities. And I think as long as the advice is being taken, he's sensible, and he's back now. He's doing his normal activities and duties. So that's good. But let's be clear, we're getting slightly older. We have to make sure we're looking...
But he'll be sitting today writing notes to the people who are in Birmingham who he isn't seeing today, saying, I'm so sorry. Of course. It was a slight setback, but I'll be seeing you again soon.
I hope the pen's working.
Thank you so much for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every single day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the morning.